Welcome to Ultimate DIY, where you learn to be your own handyman. And today I'm going to show you how you can keep your family safe if there's a power outage. So you may be wondering why I'm worried about a power outage. A couple of years ago here in Texas, we had what was called the snowpocalypse. It was a very heavy couple of weeks worth of snow and ice, freezing temperatures. We don't normally get here. You up north, you guys probably laugh at that. That's just a day in the park for you guys. But it had literally shut down our grid, and we went a week or more with no power. At least a lot of the people here did. So if you have children, you have elderly, you want to make sure that you keep them warm. Now, if you happen to have a fireplace in your house, that's great, but not all modern fireplaces will work without power because they have a blower that generally runs and blows that heat out. So that being said, what do you do if there's a power outage? Now, there's a couple of options. You can go and you can buy a whole house generator. I have a gas line already ran out here. In the future, I plan on getting one of those. But my house is still under construction and I can't afford to spend 10, 20 grand or more on a whole house generator right now. So what is my solution? What can I do? You know, I could pack my family up and go to a hotel. I could go find that family member, but I really like to stay in my own home and I don't want to have to drive on the icy streets if that happens. So what you can do is you can get yourself a regular generator. I use this generator daily with my welding. It'll run 220 through it, and it's got plenty of wattage, and I can weld with this generator. Well, I can wheel this generator outside, and I can crank it up, and I can put my lines to it, my extension cords, and I can run them through a window, I can run them through a door, I can run that all the way up the ladder and into the attic and tie it into my furnace because I have a gas system. Now, this system that I'm talking about will not necessarily work if you have an electric furnace, but if you have a gas furnace, this will work. So what I have done is I have taken Romex wire and I've ran it to multiple plugs throughout the house. I've ran one to where my big TV is going to be behind the wall and it's marked just generator, has its own outlet. I've ran one to where my internet connection is at, so my router and my modem can be plugged in so I can have internet. I've ran another one into the living room where we can plug in cell phones, laptops. We can run a cord from that into the refrigerator, the freezer if it starts thawing out to keep the food from going bad. It gives me a lot of options. But the fourth one that is most important is I have a line ran from that same cable going all the way up into the attic, through the walls, and over to my furnace. And all I have to do, I have one plug, and in that plug I've cut it into two, and I'm going to show you how I do that in a minute on a close-up. But you cut that plug in two. There's little tabs. You cut them, break them off, and your top plug can be city power. The bottom plug can be your generator. By doing this, and the way I've got it set up, you do not have to have a transfer switch. You don't have to worry about electrocuting a lineman out in the front trying to fix your power because it is totally separate. There's no way the two can mix. So I will show you how I do that in a minute, and I'm also going to show you how I wire in this plug. This is the other part of it. All my wires are going up to a junction box and wired in up in the attic and spread out to the different places and rooms that I want them to go to. And I can always add more in the future if I want. But this box, and I'll leave a link to the box, what it does, and there's a special way to wire this too, and I'm going to show you. It's a very tight fit so that it cannot get moisture and wetness in it, but this thing covers it when you're not using it so water can't get in it, and this will plug in. But like I said, I will show you how that wires up in a minute. I'll show you close up because it wires up almost like a dryer plug. It's not a typical like household plug. It's got a protective coating up in the front and the wires going in the back side of it, that way it can't get wet. It's a pretty smart way of doing it. You'll see when I go to put it together. So this cord that I'm using is a regular cord, way too small for what I would normally use, and it's way too long. The longer the cord, the higher the amperage goes, and you're going to consume more power, and it's going to cost you. So we want to get rid of this little long cord, and we're going to have a short one. I've already ordered it. There's two different ways that they tie in. I got on mine, I have a 20 amp receptacles. I have two of them on the side. And then I have over here, I have the twist in lock. The twist in lock, you can do it either at 220, which I use for my welding a lot, or you can do another twist in one that is a 110, and it will give you 30 amps going into the house. 30 amps will power quite a bit. Now, if junction's off, so you don't have to worry about overamping your wire gauge, because it's just like a regular home was built, everything branches off. You normally are never going to have everything on at the same time. So those are coming in and they're going to be permanent. But for right now, for testing today, we're just going to go ahead and use this, because I do have we have freezing temperature scheduled to start this evening, and they're talking probably below 10 degrees by this Monday, which is 2 days from now, with snow and ice coming. So I want to be prepared and ready to go. So we're going to test everything and make sure it works. But all you do is take the regular plug and you plug it in. Just like that, and now it's ready to go. Your unit can sit outside and it's safe, so that it's not going to poison somebody, by dragging it inside. People make that mistake every year. They run a generator inside the home, and they end up, dying from that, because you don't smell the gases, but it will kill you. You can put this thing in a garage, but make sure your garage door is open so that fresh air can move around. I've heard of situations, though, in a garage with bedrooms above the garage, and the gas is working the way up into that bedroom. So I wouldn't even do that. I prefer to have mine out away from the home in the air, so that all those gases can blow away. So we're going to go ahead and start. I'm going to give you a close-up, show you how I wire in the actual receptacle. I'm going to go up and I'm going to give you a little tour of what it is in my attic and how I've got everything wired up. And I'm also going to show you the different outlets. And then we're going to power everything up, and we're going to see if it actually works. I'll test at least one of the outlets so that you can see that. And we're going to test the furnace. So stay tuned to the very end, because we're going to test that furnace, and I'm going to put a heat gun on it, and I'm going to prove to you that it'll heat up your home. All right, so let's go ahead and let's get to it. Now, the plug that I have bought that I'm using, this is what is going to be mounted into the box. I've already mounted the box, so it saves a little bit of time. But this will be mounted, and I'm going to show you how to wire this, because it's a little different than just a traditional plug. But what happens is your cord plugs in here. You will take and plug the regular plug-in part into your generator, and then the part that comes out at the end that you plug stuff into will slide into this, and then that's going to feed power into the house. So we're going to wire this in a second. Now, I have already wired the upstairs unit where my furnace is at, but I'm going to go up in a minute and I'm going to show you what that looks like and explain to you how mine works. But I want to show you up close, though, this part of it, because this is the most important part. I have videos already that show you how to wire up a regular outlet. Let's turn it over so it looks right. So there's some very important part here, and this is how I worked my system upstairs. I have city power coming into the top part of the receptacle. On the bottom part of the receptacle, I have the generator power. And how you accomplish that, if you notice, you have two sets of screws. Your white screws are always going to be neutral. Your gold are always going to be your black hots. So there's two sets, because not only can you jump and go to another outlet, so if you're piggybacking and going from outlet to outlet, this allows you to have two separate power lines. And how that is accomplished, if you look really closely here, there's a little tab, and that tab sticks up. And all you do is you take and break that little tab off. Just like that. It's already broke. I just like to get it away. There we go. And I'm going to show you here in just a second a close-up so you can see. All right, so now, and you do that on both sides. So I'll come over here and do the same thing here. I'm going to break the tab off. So what it is that little tab makes the connection between both parts of your plug. So what this does by breaking that is now I will come in with my city wire and put my neutral and my hot, so my top will be city, and then I'll go to my neutral and my hot for my generator, and my bottom will be generator. Just make sure that you mark that really well on your receptacle, and you'll see when we go up into my attic how I have that marked, so it's easy. So if I get a snowpocalypse and the power is down, I can come in, turn on my generator, plug it in. I can go in now and I have power to the receptacles that I've designated in the house and that are marked generator, a G for generator. I can also now go up into the attic, unplug the furnace from the city power and plug it into the generator power. Now I am totally off grid, and I don't have to worry about a transfer switch, and I'm protected, and I can heat my entire home. I can have some lights, TV, computer, cell phone charging. I can run a cord over periodically and plug it into my refrigerator and my freezer and make sure that they stay cold. So it's that simple. So what we're going to do real quick is we're going to go ahead and wire up the downstairs part where it plugs in so that you can see that, because it's a different kind of plug than this. I want you to see how that works. So let's do that. Okay, so the first thing, I'm going to push a little bit back in there. This is probably a little longer than I need. When I run these, I always leave a little bit of extra so I can cut it off depending on what I'm going to need. So I'm going to cut that here first. Just like that. I'm going to strip back the plastic coating. And be sure that you're running thick enough wire, by the way. This is going to be the heavier wire, which I can run more amperage through. Do not run the white wire if you're going to be running 20 plus amps through this thing. And you could even go thicker wire if you really needed to, but I'm not going to have everything running at any one time. So I push it all the way back into here. And now I'm going to cut off my excess here. So we have our ground, our hot, and our neutral. Just like that there. And tell you what, that's still a little long, so I'm going to cut a little bit more off. I just want to make sure I can get it into the box easily. Let's see. Just like that. Okay, so how this works is you have, let me pull in a little closer here. You have a green screw, which is going to be your ground, which is obviously the bare wire. That's my earth ground. I'm going to have a gold screw and a silver screw. I always remember silver because it's closer to white. So that's always going to be my neutral. The gold is always my hot. And how this works, they slide in from the top. You'll loosen the screw, slide it in, and then you tighten it back. A lot like a dryer setup. Now this needs to set like this, not this. So it has a closing top. So when I take my plug, I can open it up, start up my generator, plug everything in, and plug it right into the wall. So let's strip our wires back. So this one is showing my depth gauge off to the side here, so it only looks like about 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to mark, and I don't know if you can really see that, but they're off to the sides. So all I've got to do is trim these back about 1/4. So we're going to come over here and get it in the right one. Twist, turn, just like that. And then we're going to come over to the same thing on this one. Twist. Well, that one's a little stubborn, just like that there. Now I'm going to take and loosen all of the screws. They're already, it looks like, pretty loose. All right, flip it back. let's get our ground in first. All right, so my screws are actually all loose now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with my earth ground, the green screw, and we're going to put it in the opening right in the back. Make sure that it's pushed up tight, and then we tighten. Pull it, make sure it's good and tight. All right, so now we know this needs to go this way because of our cover. So we're looking for the black wire, which is right here on this side. We're going to feed it in there. And that one's in and tight. Good. Now we're going to take and we're going to use the white screw and put in the white wire, or the silver screw. Silver is always neutral. And we need to get that in there. Now that one acts like it is not loose enough. Let me see. Probably was not. There we go. Get it all the way in, hold it tight, and tighten. Now if you're worried about stripping these, you can use the 12-volt system, which I have a video on, or you can use a screwdriver. So now let's go ahead and put it into place. And what you're going to do is bend the wires back. What I try to do is get them all kind of lined up and started. That way it makes attaching it much easier. So they're all started. Now what I'm going to do is you work your way around it. Don't just crank one down all the way. You work it in there gently. That way you don't bind anything. Now we want this gasket snug. You don't want to over tighten it, but you want it where it compresses so that it keeps water out. And there's something here else that's going to go here, and I'll show you that in just a second. I'm sure you're already wondering about that. Okay. So the other thing that comes with the package when you order these, and I will give you the link to these. This is the Journeyman Pro, is the one that I'm using, 3-pole, 3-wire, 15 amp to 125 volt grounding receptacle. So what you're going to do here, they come with these little plugs. And the little plugs are made so if you're using conduit, you can do a piece of conduit here. We're not, so we want to keep water out. They have a little screw top on the top. You're going to take and get these things started and then use a screwdriver. We'll go ahead and use the DeWalt grounding screwdriver. I think it'll be big enough. Yeah, it'll turn it. And we screw those in. Just like that there. And then this has one for the bottom because there's one underneath it as well. Now, the one underneath, you may be saying, well, I don't have to worry about that too much. It's not going to hurt anything. The problem is you'll have bugs and things going up inside there making little homes and possibly shorting out your wire. So make sure you do seal that. Bottom one's a little more difficult to get started. There you go. All right, so we're ready here. So next I'm going to go up and I'm going to show you what it looks like in the attic. Okay guys, it's a little bit of tight quarters up here. It is in the attic. Now it's very bright because I ran LED light cables through my attic. And matter of fact, I'll leave a link for those in the description as well because they're really great. I have them under my house and I have them all through the attic. They light everything up like daylight. Now I raised my roof about 3 feet because I like to be able to walk around and work in my attic. I hate crawling on my belly in an attic. It was quite expensive and time consuming to do that, but it was well worth it. So if you have that opportunity and you're able to do that, I would highly recommend it. Now I could make this living quarters up top, but my house is roughly 3,200 square feet now. I really don't need the extra living space, but I do like working easily. So one of the first things I want to point out, guys, if you have your furnace, go up there and mark your model numbers and everything on the furnace. I used to sell HVAC, and I'll tell you, so many times the labeling is gone. It's wore off, whatever. Somebody's pulled it off. They put tape over it. Put your model numbers on there. Put the dates they were installed. If you registered your units, put when you registered them and everything on here. Put all the information that you can here. Keep your manuals nearby, so they're always easy to access. All right, so I installed a piece of dimensional lumber across here. Right now I have this running. This is extra power. So like say the guys are up here working, they need a fan, middle of summer, they need something, they need lights. They have easy power right here. This is my emergency shutoff where I have installed so that if they're going to work on the unit, they can just reach over here, flip the unit off. All right. Very simple. Now, this is going to the furnace. Right now, you can see it says grid. The bottom on this one is grid. The top one is my generator. If power goes out, all I have to do is go and hook up my generator downstairs, plug it in like I showed you, come up here, unplug this from grid, and plug it into the generator. And now, I should be able to turn on my furnace from my thermostat downstairs, and it will have the generator running down there, and it will power the fan, and the igniter will be able to ignite the gas, and I should have heat. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go downstairs, and I'm going to show you with the heat gun that we are getting heat, and I'm going to show you when I flip off the power to the house. Okay, so let's go give that a try. So all of my plugs, this one will be in my living room. They're all marked with a G. This is directly behind my big screen TV. The one on the right is going to be city power. The one on the left with the G will be my generator power. This is inside of my utility room, and this right up above is where all of my internet connections are going to be. The wire that's hanging there is going to be the wire that I'm going to run and hook up from the generator. Okay, I've got my cover off of my system right now, but this is my main. So I'm going to go ahead and shut the main off. Now we are pitch dark. Flip the switch. We got a choke. Okay guys, I've got the generator on. Everything is wired. I just haven't mounted the plug all the way, but I wanted to plug in, make sure it works. We're going to flip the light, see if it works inside. And yes, it does. And you can probably hear the generator running outside. But I have my thermostat here, and it's set at 59, which right now it's probably about 50 degrees in the house. I just flipped it on, so it'll start warming up. Now, the light you're seeing is coming from my DeWalt light, because the main power to the house is off. So let's go up here, and I can feel the hot air coming out. We're going to go ahead and shoot the air. And right now it's putting out 96.3, which is perfect. So it does work, guys. We'll go outside and I'll do a quick recap, but it is working fantastic. Well, there you go, guys. It was not that difficult to protect yourself and your family if there's a power outage. Not very expensive either. For everything I did here today, now I ran multiple lines to different rooms. I spent about 140 bucks. If you just want to make sure your furnace comes on and that you have heat, you're probably talking about 75 bucks, or maybe a little less. Not very expensive to make sure that you are safe. Just one night in a hotel is going to cost you a lot more than that. So if you got anything out of today's video, be sure you leave me a like. I appreciate it. It helps the channel grow. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you do if there's a power outage. I'd really enjoy reading that. If you're not a subscriber, please consider subscribing. And if you are a subscriber, or you're just now subscribing, well, that's a tongue twister. Be sure that you hit that little bell. That bell is going to let you know every time I release a video, so that you don't miss anything. I do appreciate you guys watching, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.